Missing bedtime to make you happy. That's what we do here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. Of course, wake up. For those of you on the East Coast, appreciate you hanging in there. And of course, prime time for the West Coast here at the College Football Show. Good to see all of you. Leave those comments and questions there in the chat. What is this? Well, this is our what is now weekly late night call-in show. We're going to do this at least once per week. And you are going to determine when you see us. So it's not going to be each and every Friday night, unless, of course, you say it's going to be each and every Friday night. Tukey G took the honors for week number 1 of the off-season late night call-in show. So Tukey G, I can thank you or blame you for being here right now because Tukey G called it. Who will call it tonight? I have not decided. We shall see. It might be one. It might be many. Maybe we'll take a vote. But we are here to talk college football with you, to take your calls. The call-in line is there in the chat. It's on Twitter and X. And so please take part because that's why we're here, is to talk to you. And there is so much to cover. One news item out of Knoxville that's a bit disturbing. We will get to. Iowa has lost its quasi-starting quarterback from last season and proposed backup quarterback. And certainly this is shown he is the backup quarterback, but he is looking for another job through the transfer portal and other odds and ends as we look toward another Saturday in college football in the spring, but not quite the Saturday that it's been with games all over the television, although the defending national champions will grace us with their TV appearance, but few others are opting to do that. I counted the other day in the Power 5 with 70 schools and only 12 are going to be on television. So we will discuss that as well right here at the Voice of College Football. We appreciate your contributions. If you cannot contribute, we do not want this to be a sacrificial giving situation. Not at all. If you're going to give sacrificially, do it to somebody in regards to, of course, helping those in need. But here, we do appreciate your contributions. So please do that. Also, like and subscribe, of course, here at the Voice of College Football. Let's push past 50,000 subs and get our 100,000 subs that we have been wanting for quite some time. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. Keep adding. All right, let's get to the phone line here. We will take them in order. So we've got Kaden on the line. Kaden, what's going on?
Good evening, Mark. Actually, I called you at a good time because I work second shift, so I get to call into your shows frequently. But how you doing this evening?
Excellent. I'm doing well. How are you?
Very pleasant. I changed up my photo here to the mountains of Transylvania in Romania because I'm feeling a little spooky this college football season. But that's just because of my prophecies that I was told. But enough of the prophecies that I have foretold over the last couple of months since Ohio State has won that national championship. By the way, it damn feels good to win a national championship once again. And I'll tell you, that ring feels good around my finger.
I bet it does. Just so you got it fitted correctly. I'm sure that the school has made sure that you received your championship ring probably before anyone else.
No, I was the last one. I told all the guys to go first.
Okay, that was very gracious of you.
Because I respect the boys. I respect everybody at Ohio State. Not only respect them, but I love them like my brothers. You know? Brothers help brothers out. That's the bottom line. By the way, did want to mention to you, Mark, I follow you on Twitter at Kaden the Man, which, by the way, everybody can follow me on Twitter at Kaden the Man. I'll be posting a lot more content on Twitter. What, X? Nobody's ever heard of X?
Kaden, you can't hear it from here because obviously we're on a live stream, but I am sure that that announcement has caused eruptions across the landscape of college football. People are rejoicing. They're running to their Twitter. They are clicking the follow as we speak.
And what's your point, Mark?
What's my point? I can see it. I can feel it. Okay, what are we talking about here, Kaden?
Actually, there was something I was wanting to mention to you from last week's show. I wanted to ask you about. And actually, I wanted to get something off my chest over the last couple months since you and I've been feuding. I actually wanted to thank you. Now, you're probably asking, Kaden, why you wanting to thank me.
Can't wait to hear.
Actually, for honestly, making me see the error of my ways and how I speak and the way I actually state stuff. That's why I was actually coming on here to thank you also for that.
Well, we appreciate the calls. We appreciate you being here, Kaden. We appreciate your passion for college football in Ohio State.
But also, you also, I didn't see it at first because I was in the moment. But also, I understand this. I'm not just calling just to sound like an idiot. I'm calling to say that you have corrected me of my arrogance. We'll just per se that.
Okay.
If
Well,
that's
we all
easy
suffer
enough.
from arrogance from time to time. There's no doubt about that. Pride is a big issue in this world.
But also, um, there was something else. Oh yeah. Um, if you don't know, I work second shift for Ohio Cat, the most famous cat dealer in all of Central Ohio. That's why I work second shift. So that's why if you hear the printer noise, that's stuff for that I don't got to deal with because I already done all my stuff for the day. But that's not important. What's important now is that it's the voice of college football tonight. It's the dark hour call-in show featuring the great Mark Rogers, who has beat me in every debate war on this phone on every call-in show I have been on. And I will admit, I am 0-25 against Mark Rogers. 0-25. That's shocking. And honestly, to not be shocked, Mark Rogers has beat me in every debate. And I appreciate Mark Rogers' debating skills. It's very impressive.
Well, thank you for the honor that you've given me, Kaden, to debate you. I think it's only 23 myself, but
I've been keeping count.
okay, very nice. We do appreciate your call. Was there anything else that you wanted to address tonight? But thank you so much for a much different call out of Kaden tonight.
I just felt honestly in the mood. And let's talk about the other issue you wanted to discuss about the situation in Knoxville.
Yes.
Nico leaving Tennessee for more money. Wow. It doesn't surprise me that after a great season he's had at Tennessee, that he is deciding to leave Knoxville. He's their quarterback that not only is a good quarterback, but also somebody who has made that offense even better in Knoxville. But also understand that Nico's decision about moving from Tennessee was a bad idea. Because that's the program that gave him that stardom, that gave him not only his stardom, but also the opportunity to start and play for one of the greatest teams in the SEC, Tennessee. And he's proven that time and time and time again. But also, leaving Tennessee was a bad decision on his part. Hayden Hooker, let me give an example, stayed his career, the later part of his career at Tennessee, but he was the greatest thing to come to Tennessee since the late great Peyton Manning. The great Peyton Manning, by the way. May I add. No disrespect to Peyton Manning's legacy at Tennessee, but someone can debate me on that another day. But I feel like with Nico leaving Tennessee, that's a bad decision on his part. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on that.
Well, Kaden, I think you're on point tonight across the board. I haven't delved into the story exactly, but the bottom line is yes, holding out of practice is not something I necessarily want to see out of a college football player. We have now become truly, it's just another indicator of the professional aspect that's come to college football. And so we will delve a little bit deeper into it. But what we know right now is he skipped practice because he's holding out for better NIL money, apparently. But again, we'll get to the details. And then beyond that, yeah, he may leave for what he thinks are greener pastures. But yes, this is the school, as you well note very well, that gave him an opportunity. Not that he wouldn't have received one elsewhere, but and gave him quite the sweet deal to start there as a freshman, as a redshirt freshman.
But also, I do want to comment, Leanne Herring, good to see you. Yay, I know, finally, Kaden the man has lightened up from his dark mood in the last couple months, but you know what? I felt a little bit more enlightened because of Mark Rogers.
Well, we appreciate
Because
the call. We're going to move on to some other callers, Kaden, unless you got anything else for us.
but there was one more thing I wanted to mention with the situation with Iowa, with their
Yes.
quarterbacks not only leaving but also losing their backup quarterback could cause them some serious situations, and not only with just the whole team itself, but now they're going to have to either find someone out of the transfer portal now to replace both starter and the backup, but also recruiting for Iowa's not looking very well. And to be completely honest, this is the one trouble that I heard about with Iowa that I'm really concerned about. If they don't find someone before the college football season, and hopefully they do, pray to God they do, maybe their season might turn around, may not. We'll see. It depends on how Iowa handles the situation. But as far as, like I said, with the Tennessee situation, money has taken over college football. It has taken completely 100% of all of college football over. Because every student that wants to transfer to a different school that has more money is a bad decision. You go to play college football for the school that you were gifted to go play for was because of not because of money, but because they saw what you had inside of you, but also because of your talent. So please remember that if you are a student athlete and you're watching this, please remember that.
Well, thank you for the speech, Kaden. I think we can all agree with you. I appreciate the call, Kaden. We'll talk soon.
See you again, sir.
Our buddy Kaden stopping by. We appreciate him leading us off with a big kickoff and a very unexpected series of angles from Kaden. It's a new and improved, a different Kaden tonight. Well, wonders never cease. So we do appreciate Kaden. We'll move it on to our buddy David Greenshield. Look at this.
Yes, back-to-back Ohio State fans. So there you go.
You're in good company, David.
Yes, I feel like I am, Mark. Although I didn't get my championship ring, so I'm still waiting on mine. So hopefully they make a special one. Diamond encrusted. All that. One can dream, Mark. One can dream. I did want to start. By the way, I did offer you. Did you put out there for suggestions for times for shows during the week?
Well, here's the deal. This is what
Yeah.
we're going to do, Dave. We're going to move it around. It's going to
Okay.
float all over the place, and each week we're going to come up with a different way to decide for the next week. Whether we take a vote or a poll, or we just pick somebody in particular, and they just say, "Mark, 2 a.m. on Thursday," whatever it is. So we're going to move it around so different people can watch.
For what it's worth, 2 cents anytime after 9 o'clock.
All right, got it.
So that 9 to 10 time frame would be nice. If you can make that happen, that would be great. Just as a
okay. We will at some point. I know that.
If I can put that in the Voice of College Football suggestion box.
Well, you are high on the list, David. You know that.
Thank you, my friend. All right, well, let's talk a little college football, my friend. First of all, I find it interesting with the spring games coming up. How a lot of people thought this might change. By the way, what exactly was the Matt Rule concern? I'm trying to remember what his statement was about not having the spring game at Nebraska. Was it a fear that they would actually lose recruits, or that other teams would try to, by seeing their players on the field, try to get them to come to their school based on offering them more money? Was that his overarching concern about not having a spring game? I'm trying to remember his exact, and maybe you can help me out here, Mark.
Well, it is basically that, yes, that those players are on display for other schools to now go out and poach them, of which there is no ramification for. And that is basically that he sees absolutely no benefit to putting his players out there to be on display and to be auditioning for other schools.
Okay. I found that to be interesting, by the way. Um, what did you think of that thought? I mean, just in his view on that. Did you have an opinion? I don't know if you had expressed it at the time or what your overall view was on that.
Well, I don't want to speak out of ignorance because if there's some kind of legitimate concern, but so we have a number of ways in which, as I am pursuing the exact word from Matt Rule,
Hmm.
but we've got a number of approaches that have been taken by these coaches. I don't know if you heard me mention that only 12 are on TV. And that number would be in the 50s, probably out of the 70 in the power conference realm, that we're down to 12 that are going to play on television.
Okay.
Deion Sanders never missed a camera opportunity, so that shouldn't be surprising. Ohio
Right.
State doesn't seem to be too concerned about it. Now we'll see the nature of this spring game,
Right.
but I guess they figure everybody knows about their players anyway. Uh, so what are
Right.
they really putting on display when even the guys that have not seen the field are, top 100 recruits in the nation? So I don't like it because I think that you're looking at the longest offseason in sports.
Right.
People are craving to see their teams, and we all know the entertainment value and the football value of a spring game is not high. However, if they're produced correctly on television, then they do become a nice little showcase for the school for 2 hours, and you do get a preview. Again, if the television network's doing its job, they've got everybody mic'd on the field, they've got the coach, they've got their best analysts on the field, and they're making it a preview of the season for that particular team. And I find it informative, entertaining, if done right. And they're taking that away from all of us. And I find it quite disturbing. And I can't imagine that it's that. I think this is the epitome of the paranoia of head football coaches.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a minute as I talk about the Tennessee quarterback situation and the college football world that we live in nowadays. You were kind of talking about it a little bit on the last call, but I do want to get to that in a second. I actually was kind of going to tie, Matt Rule into some Nebraska thoughts and maybe even some. Well, I just want to make sure I got your quote right. You said the two most interesting teams in the Big Ten this year were Nebraska and USC, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to offer opinions on both, but I would like to add a third team to that equation because I think this coach's job may be on the line, and that's Wisconsin and Luke Fickle.
I'm right there with you.
I think that and he's got a very, very difficult schedule this year. That's not going to help the cause. He's obviously not gotten off to a great start. I like Luke a lot. I have a soft spot for him. Obviously, he was thrown into a very difficult situation, of course, in 2011. But we saw what type of a coach he could be at Cincinnati, of course. It still amazes me with him, and I keep going back to this that he tried to hire Phil Longo as his offensive coordinator and go with this up tempo passing game. Aside from the 1 year that Wisconsin got the lottery ticket that was Russell Wilson in 2011, when is the last time Wisconsin has ever built a big time passing game? I mean, as I've said for years, the Barry Alvarez playbook has been passed down from generation to generation to generation to every Wisconsin coach that followed. I guess that's my point is, Mark, is that do you think he just hurt himself too much with this early start, and he's going to have a very hard time digging his way out of this hole, especially with the schedule he's got this year? I don't know what your thoughts are.
I do.
Go ahead.
I do agree with that. I thought that he was too smart to take on that mission of transforming the offense with the same plotting, running game oriented roster than he was making it out to be. Now, we would have to go back and really dissect the offense and look to see what they were really trying to do that first year, but they just didn't have the personnel to
Right.
scare anybody on offense, do anything. They had a nice little slot receiver in Will Pauling,
Mm-hmm.
who transferred to Notre Dame.
Right.
And he had 2 really great seasons the last 2 years, but we're not talking about a guy that's stretching the field. He was their best offensive player the last 2 years. We had Ryan Herring on from Locked On Badgers last week and went through the whole situation with Luke Fickell and the disappointment from Wisconsin fans, the new offensive coordinator, what they look to do, and so forth. And I asked him about the running back position because I got to admit, with Ches Malusi, with Braylon Allen, those guys moving on, I haven't done the deep dive on these teams yet.
Mm-hmm.
I can't name a Wisconsin running back. Now, again, if I looked at a roster, I'm sure a couple names would come to mind, and I would remember a few guys. But the point is that,
Yep.
as you well know, there's always been one superstar,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes 2 deep NFL, sometimes 3,
Right.
and they don't even have that at the running back position. I think Luke Fickell is still feeling the effects of Paul Christ not necessarily grinding on the recruiting trail. There was a lot of talk when he got fired that a lot
Didn't
of
leave the
that
cupboard
wasn't.
full, Mark. Right?
Yeah, yeah, that a lot
Didn't
of
leave the
that
cupboard full. Yeah.
out of Wisconsin was that they viewed Paul Christ as, because if you just look at the record, his last full season was 9-4. He started 3-2, and he gets fired, and it's like, really, that you're going to fire this guy that's going to Big Ten championship game? Well, apparently the recruiting was just a mess. He had a bad approach. He was lazy. That's what are the reports out of Wisconsin. And yes, so this roster during the time that Luke Fickell's been there has been the worst Wisconsin roster in 30 years. And he brought in a lot of transfers to deal with it, but more quantity than quality. And look at their quarterback situation, David.
Yep.
Of course, they tried Tyler Van Dyke.
Yeah.
We don't
High
know if he
recruit, by the way. Yeah.
probably would not have been the answer, but we'll never know because he got hurt the first big game of the season, the first drive against Alabama, and Braden Locke was no good.
No.
So they're both moving on and they're gone. So now they've got a very marginal quarterback battle going on between Danny O'Neal, who was the starting quarterback at San Diego State, and Billy Edwards from Maryland, who's probably going to win the job. So I don't see a very good team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what is Wisconsin built around? They find the running back, then they always build the trenches up. They build up the offensive line. So they're usually building one of the better offensive lines in the conference, maybe even possibly in the country. They find the 1-star tailback. In some instances, they've had multiple good backs. They usually find a decent pass catching tight end. They build their offense around, like so many teams in the Midwest build their offense around. The offensive line, a good back, and maybe a good pass catching tight end. Where have you seen what other Midwestern teams pretty much build their offenses that same way? You know what I mean? A majority of them.
Look at their biggest competitors in their region,
Right.
Minnesota, Iowa, and the way that they're built. Nobody ran the ball from the time PJ Fleck took over at Minnesota through this past season. Nobody ran the ball more than Minnesota during his tenure, other than service academies.
Right.
And the other issue I had with, and I didn't doom this from the beginning and say, so I'm not going to call something that I didn't call at the time. I thought Luke Fickell was the hire of the offseason. Between he and Matt Rule, I was like, these are the 2 best hires of the offseason. But my question was also based on location. Okay, you're trying to ask personnel to do what they're not used to doing. You're changing a culture. I'm not an offensive line expert, but I got to think you're asking them to do very different things that probably those guys, the way they were lifting and practicing and everything, were not prepared to do. And then on top of that, where are you going to get these players? I know it's the transfer, and that's why I was a little hesitant to be as harsh as I was thinking back in yesteryear before a transfer portal. Now I was thinking, okay, with a transfer portal, you can bring in the kind of players that you want, that are veteran players that have proven something. But still, it's Wisconsin. You're isolated, and you develop linemen or you grow them. in that part of the country, and those types of offensive players. And yeah, it's not been pretty. And I, again, without taking the deep dive on this team, I don't think it's a very good football team this year. And as you mentioned, they had a brutal schedule last year. Unfortunately for them, they played their best games against the best teams on the schedule, so they still lost those games against
Right.
Penn State and Oregon.
They
But
had
then
Oregon.
they
Yeah.
played lousy games against the weaker teams, and then lost those games as well.
Yeah. They had Oregon. Yeah. In the schedule, like you
And Penn
said,
State, they played really well. They had a lead in the fourth quarter.
right. Yeah. It was a good game for a little over 3 quarters. You're right. All right, wanted to get to Nebraska too. I was one of those that was also a defender of the Matt Rule hire, like you were, and I just think Matt Rule is suited to be a college coach. I don't know why he stuck his hand on that stove in the NFL, particularly with the Carolina Panthers, not one of the better run organizations in the NFL. But I do think that Nebraska has tried to put so much effort, through their collectives, through investment into that program to try to get back to being, I don't know about an elite level program. I mean, the Tom Osborne days aren't going to be coming back really anytime soon, I don't think. But at the very least, getting back into that level to where they could get into a college football playoff, be a top 12 team. And I had made the statement, and here's the other thing that I find interesting with Rule and with Nebraska. It's amazing to me. I always thought Frost was so tied to Martinez at quarterback. In the same way, now I feel that Raiola is so tied to Matt Rule at quarterback. It's much like the NFL. I mean, you're just tied to your guy, and my job's on the line one way or another. Whether this guy shows growth and develops into a really good college quarterback, like the guy in the NFL develops into a really good college quarterback. And you saw it like with Martinez losing a lot of those games, those close games for Frost that probably cost him his job. So I mean, I have some confidence. I think they can make a step. Kind of looking at their schedule to at least an 8-4. I think there's a progress to this for him. I don't know. Am I being a little bit rosy with that, Mark? Or I know you like him as a coach as well.
I'm right there with you, David, because so the results that we've seen from Nebraska through 2 years under Matt Rule aren't that much different than what we saw against Scott Frost. But they did break through, finally got to a bowl game, and of course won the bowl game. And so those are positive steps, of course, to be able to break that stigma of being the school that went to a bowl game. That it's been the longest drought. So they break through that. Best wins last year, Colorado.
Right.
Maybe they played them at the right time. That would be the argument from the other side, but they did win the game easily.
Yeah.
In the Big Ten, best win, Rutgers, I believe. I'm almost certain they didn't really beat anyone. They won 4 games. Did they win 4 games? No, they went 6-6. They won 3 games. This was still a 3-6 football team in the Big Ten that beat Rutgers, Purdue, and somebody else that I'll come up with. They still lost to UCLA. They
Yeah,
lost
that was
they found a way to lose to Iowa on a walk-off field goal, as they typically do. But I think it's interesting what you're making the NFL comparison of quarterback tied to head coach, and the head
right.
coach making a decision that this is the guy. However, I don't remember Adrian Martinez hype coming into college football from high school. I don't think it was anywhere close to Dylan Raiola,
That's true.
who was being wooed, of course, by Ohio State, Georgia.
Right.
And so I think this is a more reasonable decision from Matt Rule. Adrian Martinez was a turnover machine.
Right.
Matt Rule is such a better football coach than Scott Frost. He's a more likable guy. He's better with personnel. He's been around the block in so many different locations and shown that he could turn
Yeah,
around a Temple program, a Baylor program.
that's
And
true.
I think they're in much better hands, even though the results have it's like Scott Frost hasn't left the building. They're still losing one-score games, but I think that they're in a much better place right now.
Are we counting the BC Bowl win as a quality win, Mark? Or is that
Well, I guess we count that.
yeah,
Whatever the criteria. Yeah.
okay.
BC, Rutgers. If I counted Rutgers, I guess we got to count BC.
There you go. Although I think they got a little bit of help from the refs towards the end of that game. I'm sure Bill O'Brien thought so. But yeah, I actually I think that there's a positive trajectory there. I think if they get to 8-4, I think that's a nice step for them this year. 9-3 might be a bit much, but I think if you go, what was it, 6-6 to 8-4 is kind of the trajectory you want your program on. I think if you're Matt Rule, though.
I would agree. And it depends on the look of the 8-4. If
That's
the eight
true.
and four is, you can look at a lot of these mid-tier teams in these conferences and look at it and say, okay, they got some give me wins. So 7-5, 8-4 is probably where they settle. But is that a strong 8-4? Is that an 8-4 where the losses are they were competitive? Maybe they get blown out once, give them that one.
Mm,
But besides that, they're competitive, as opposed to they beat everyone they're supposed to beat. They beat the number 13 and 14 and 15 teams in the Big Ten, but then they got completely trucked by everybody else that's at the top of the league. I think for me, it's a more an evaluation of level of play and how far they've come as well.
right. Right. If you can get one quality win, maybe a top 20 win, beat a top 20 team out of that 8 wins, that would
When is the
be
last time Nebraska beat a top 25 team? I'm going to do a little investigation here on that one. It's
oh,
been a while.
all right. Mark that on the legal pad, Mark. This, for future future work there.
You know what I was doing this afternoon, David,
What's
is
that?
because we've got two head coaches. Can you name them who are coming back to their previous schools to try to bring back past glory?
Oh, it's slipping my mind. I'm
We got
sorry.
Rich Rodriguez coming back to West Virginia.
West Virginia, that's right, Rich. Which I'm dubious about that hire, by the way. Retread coaches, this the next time around. And I may have mentioned this to you before. Not always the most positive results.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
Scott
that's right.
Frost would be the other. Now that we're speaking of Nebraska, Scott Frost going back to UCF.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. I think that's. Although you know what, here's the thing though. Frost goes back down a level, so maybe going back down to outside of a major conference or one of the two best conference, maybe the best conference in college football. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to take a step backwards too.
Yeah. Well, it's technically not. He's still in the power conference realm.
Well,
But my point
realm.
is that I will be, if I get around to producing this video, I will be showing. I threw this out there the other night, and some people had a little pushback on me. It is clear every coach that has had I went through, I didn't miss anyone either. I double checked myself. So I remembered like 8 guys that went back to an original school, and then oh, we lost David here. I don't know what happened.
Did you lose
Uh,
me?
yeah, what in the world is somebody messing with my I think we've got somebody
Still
playing
here.
on me. We got too many cooks in the kitchen in this network. I'm gonna have to start kicking people out of here. Anyway,
Good.
nobody does a better job in their second stint at a school. No one.
No. Yeah, the retread thing just does not work for the coaches.
Yeah,
All right.
Bill Snyder would have been about the best.
Yeah, yeah, one of the best coaching performances. It's been well
Yeah.
documented ever. Wanted to get to the Nico situation before I let you go, Mark. Do you think though, and so many people, and you kind of touched on it in the last call. I'm just going to take this, and obviously made the statement about college football morphing into the NFL Junior. I know you can't rename the show; it's too much to change the graphics and all the shirts and everything, Mark. I'm sure, but I don't know. Well, I seriously doubt this gives all those people that advocated that we should pay the players, pause. But should it? I mean, is this a kind of like, hey, you wanted this, you reap what you sow, you know what I mean? This is the type of thing you're going to get, and this is the type of thing that could lead to problems in locker rooms. And I mean, you tell me. I mean, it's
Yeah, we're seeing it play out right in front of us. However, I don't know that this was not inevitable. These players by law are going to get paid.
Right. But back to what I've always said, in the true league, the true NFL, they have a structure to it, Mark. They have a structure to it. We got no structure to this whole thing. This
No, we
thing,
don't.
this whole thing's the Wild West. And, there's a lot of things that are good intended in this world, Mark, that isn't thought out to its logical conclusion or given a plan or an idea on on how you want to do it or how you want to go about it or how it should be done, and it ends up becoming like this.
Yeah, and this is what happens when you have nobody running the sport.
Right.
So uh,
Looking
things
for a
are.
job, Mark? Looking
I'm
for a
not
different.
looking for a job. I like not having. I like not having a job. I'm trying to avoid getting a real job. I used to have some of those, but this commissioner thing might be different, though. I might be in line for that one. That might be a nice 2 or 3 year gig to put it on the right track, and then somebody else can take it over.
Right. No, but I mean, my line of thinking. You get where I'm going with my line of thinking on this whole thing. I mean, this may just be the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there could be more Nico situations here on the horizon moving
Oh,
forward.
there will be.
And to all those advocates who wanted this, I mean, are they coming back and saying, well, at least, well, maybe we should look at like some type of caps or structure or I don't know. I haven't heard a lot of the loud advocates for this come out and say that, or that there should be that when it comes to the sport.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there, David. But
Yeah,
I'll,
I
I'll go.
know.
I'll go with this: that when the Johnny Manziel situation happened, and he got suspended for the first half of the first game of his final season at Texas A&M, I produced a video and basically said, this needs to be dealt with because we're coming toward this name, image, and likeness, or whatever it was termed at the time. So that they had a 10-year run or opportunity to deal with it. The problem is it's not like there was some impending tide coming at the NFL, and they've got a structure, they've got bosses, they got owners, they got a commissioner, and they can say, and then if they don't deal with it, we know exactly who to blame. It's your fault. You didn't see it coming, or you just ran and hid and hoped it was going to go away. But in this case, the conference commissioners run the sport. The
Right,
NCAA is a shell of itself, and they were trying to stem the tide and keep it amateur level, and they should have known that that was a losing proposition. They were never going to win that fight, and it was eventually going to be a professional sport, and they needed to do exactly what you're laying out there. Say, okay, it's coming regardless. We can't turn back the clock, so we need to deal with it in a structured way, and deal with all of this. But nobody did.
yeah. I just and I'm gonna let you go, but I know you probably have other calls. I just wonder what's what happens within the next 2 to 3 to 5 years here, and what this looks like, and what they implement to try to deal with this better than it's being dealt with right now. Bottom
When you
line.
say salary cap, I think a salary cap, and I may be way off on this in terms of legalities and so forth, but I believe that a salary cap could be put in play in regards to paying the players. What we're seeing here with the NCAA in this settlement that's going on right now, this hearing that has yet to be ruled on, that you can put a cap on that because you can tie that directly to revenue.
Right.
However, the NIL part of this, I don't know that you can cap that legally. I don't know that you can say, stop giving to the Michigan football team boosters, NIL collectives, everybody. I don't know if that's legal. That
Well,
would be like saying we're going to put a cap on NBA endorsements. And LeBron James, you can only earn $25 million in endorsements. I don't, I'm just
right. Well,
I'm just spitting, but I don't think you can do that.
yeah, booster, stop giving to them. Don't give to them.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can put a cap on that.
No. Specifically to the program you just said. Don't give to them.
Yes. I did that up for your behalf,
Yes.
David.
Thank you, my friend. All right. Well, we're going to get back together after spring games and
We
have
can
some
do that.
conversation. Yeah.
We can do that.
All right, my friend. Well, it's a pleasure getting back together with you and to talk college football with the great Mark Rogers.
Thank you, David. Good to
Have a
see
good
you.
night. Take care.
Have a good night.
Yep.
Which, David, reminds me that our Buckeyes guys will have a show after the Ohio State spring game. For some reason, Ohio State not afraid to play a spring game and put it on television. It's going to be on the Big Ten Network at noon Eastern time on Saturday. And we will look at those spring games here in just a second, but we're backlogged with about 5 callers, so we will get to them as soon as possible after we read the super chat. But once again, our Buckeyes guys, I don't know exactly who's going to show up besides Garrison, but we know Garrison's leading the charge on the Ohio State channel, and they will be live. I've been live in the past after the Buckeyes spring game, but you pass the baton. And so those guys can do it. They will be talking Ohio State football. They are keeping up with the Buckeyes much better than I am these days. But you can catch me doing the Ohio State show, of course, on Wednesdays on the Ohio State channel. That's Wednesdays, 11 a.m. Eastern. All right, Adam, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Mark, great debate yesterday. Drew Aller will bomb for Penn State and throw it to the wrong team. Dylan Raiola will win an Emmy for playing the role of Nebraska's starting quarterback. Nico is an entitled bum. Quick statements, hard-hitting statements on each one of them. The first two are not surprising out of Adam because we've heard his angst toward one Drew Aller. Drew Aller's arguably the best quarterback. This is the state of quarterback play until we see what happens and how these guys develop and play. But Drew Aller right now is arguably the best quarterback in the country. I'm not. Hang on. Somebody might be going crazy right now. Before we actually watch these guys play this season, but he's not an elite quarterback. He is not an elite quarterback. And that hurts me to say because I like Drew Aller. He's from Medina, Ohio, right down the road from me. Not currently, but where I grew up. I like Drew Aller. And I think Penn State is locked and loaded to possibly make a run for the Big Ten championship and beyond. I think they've got the most sure roster, the most productive roster coming back in the Big Ten. All right, let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. Speaking of Garrison, look at this. I didn't even know he was standing by. What's going on, man?
Well, Mark, I was going to just add on to your point about Drew Aller. I am also a Drew Aller fan, big fan of his. Was actually really mad that Ohio State wasn't able to get him. Of course, there were other reasons why we didn't have to. It kind of reminds me of back when I was younger, we had Troy Smith, but I was wondering, Ben Roethlisberger was a thing back then. but I mean, hindsight's 2020. But how are you?
I'm good. What's on your mind? I know the Buckeyes are going to show us something tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow will be myself and Mike will be live immediately after the spring game. We're looking forward to that.
Nice.
One of the few things I'm really interested in seeing for that is probably just the amount of guys that get in the games, specifically in the secondary for me, and on the D-line, more specifically defensive tackle. I kind of think I know what Edric Houston's going to be. I think he's going to be a special football player. Kaden McDonald, he's lost weight. I think he's going to be a really good player for us. I mean, I always think back to the game against Penn State where he blew the right guard back 4 feet. And honestly, it was one of the biggest plays of the game because it led to one of the thousands of goal line stands that Ohio State had last season. But I'm really excited. I can't wait to see those guys go live because they said once the backups, the second, third, fourth string guys get in, they will. But which I guess that whole soft narrative is gone now, and some of us aren't, like you said, some of us aren't afraid to go live and show our team. But
yeah, what is going on with these coaches canceling the spring games? Or we saw last week with Clemson. And they've always put on a nice little show on ESPN with Dabo Sweeney on the field. But they played a spring game, but nope, Can't put it on TV. Can't let people be able to watch our players.
I'm not a fan of that.
I'm not either.
I think it's weak, and that's not going to stop people from tampering. Like a lot of the big name players, right, or not even big name players, even like some 4-stars, mid 4-stars, all blue chip players. These coaches know who these guys are. They recruit a lot of the same players. You don't need to watch a spring game, which in the grand scheme of things for me, Mark, I think spring games, I don't want to say pointless, but I don't take too much from it. I think there's a few things you can take, but like, for some people, they talk about quarterbacks in spring games. Don't care. I saw Justin Fields go 4 for 13, and and he ends up throwing 40 touchdowns and 1 interception in 12 games. But what's your biggest, like, your take on that?
Well, my take on the spring games is exactly what you're saying, is that it needs to be taken into context, and always should have been, that the only difference between what we're watching on a Saturday afternoon in April is that we get to see it. That's the only difference. They're already playing a scrimmage roughly once a week, playing a pretty full this is how most teams approach it. About once a week, they'll play. So about 3 times they'll play a pretty reasonable, hard-hitting live scrimmage, but we just get to see this one. That's the only difference. So it's an important day, but it's not that important. Shouldn't be blown out of proportion. Again, as you outlined, Justin Fields, there was all sorts of widespread panic after that spring game, and he turned out to be arguably the best quarterback in the country. So let's not go crazy. The whole sack rule in these spring games is ridiculous, because if you've got an elusive quarterback, a hand is not bringing him down in a regular season. So it's just completely worthless to try to judge that. I think the most credible evaluation during a spring game, because it's the most like a real game on Saturday, is the wide receiver defensive back matchups in space, because that's pretty similar to what it is during a real game. But the line play, the quarterbacks eluding the rush and all that, when it's tap football, it's just, forget it.
So one of the reasons I wanted to call in today, and so on the whole Nico situation, I actually have a very big gripe about it. It actually really infuriates me, and this is the reason why. And I was talking to my guy Maze Madman about it on his show earlier today, and I take it from the aspect of someone who has played college football. And when it comes to Nico, I see a lot of people say, "Oh, well, if they're willing to pay you that, you're worth it." I don't subscribe by that. I don't believe just because someone is dumb enough to overpay you that you are technically worth the amount of money that you are being given in hand. Now, on top of that, and this is just in terms of just football, because I want to push away from the whole money aspect of it. If they said that right after the Ohio State game, the week after, that's when they started negotiating for a new contract. One of the things that angers me is that if you really, I think he wants to leave. Because I don't think you do that unless you want to leave. And they have said, like people in Tennessee have said, that he doesn't really like Knoxville. After the Ohio State game, he talked about how much he misses home, and they said it wasn't the first time to the Tennessee media that he's done that. And so I think now that you have all that information, right? And then the day before the spring game, you decide not to show up for practice. You decide that you put it out there publicly that you're negotiating. Big Dave, the Uyunglele, he's a very like a family member to him. He went out and said that none of it is true. Well, and being me, Mark, on X, I went on there and I said, "Well, Dave, and why isn't he at practice?" And then his dad goes out and sticks his neck out and says they're all lies too. And then my only question is, where are the adults in the room? Because I think we're setting a very bad precedent for the sport. Like, and it's you have Jaden Rashada, right? I hated that. And then you have Bryce Underwood, and my buddy Bryce Sack. One of the days we're and by the way, everyone, if you're a Michigan fan or anyone else, go check it out. They actually have a new show of the Victor Show on Mondays that you can catch here on the Voice of College Football for Michigan. But we got into a very heated argument before we called a high school game on the radio. And I told him, I said, you can't, unless you're talking about a kid from Spain who's 17 years old and he's gonna go play in the English Premier League, or there's some kid in Panama or the Dominican Republic, and the Detroit Tigers are gonna bring him in and pay him God knows what money. The baseball money is crazy. That's not the same situation. We're talking about these kids coming out of high school, and I think we're setting a bad precedent when you're paying boatloads of money to players who haven't done a doggone thing to even deserve. Because I don't think what you do in high school translates in terms of what you're worth in the college game. And on top of that, the locker room. There's no way he can go back to he has to leave now. You can't go back to Tennessee because I don't believe if I'm one of his teammates, I can't trust you. I know now that you put yourself before the team. And then if I'm let's say I'm USC, that Nico wants to go back out West Coast, so that's what it seems like. How much do you trust that guy? I mean, it's for me, it's just aggravating as someone who played this sport because that's not what it's about. And even though I'm okay with NIL, this was where I did not want the sport to go.
Yeah, if we had the first half of this story the same, that Nico is in negotiations and wanting a better deal or wanting out if he doesn't get that deal, but he was still going to practice, then it would still rub us the wrong way, and we'd still have conversations about, where are we with all of this? But yeah, him being as the quarterback, supposed to be the leader of the team, that you only have 15 practices.
Yeah.
There's and like you say, it's a huge distraction the day before the spring game that he's going to sit out, not go to practice. It just reeks of what we used to see. And the NFL finally figured a way out of it by slotting the NFL draft. But back in the day, we'd have all these NFL draftees that would hold out, and it was a big tidal wave because you needed one of them to make a decision and sign a contract before the other ones were just waiting to see, okay, what's he going to get? What's he going to get? What's he going to get? And we would go through this every July during fall camp in the NFL. But here we are, and it's always going to be the beginning of copycat syndrome, and it's going to happen somewhere else.
And I like to think that I like to think you're kind of like me. I always tell people I love this sport more than I love my own program, and I love my Ohio State Buckeyes, but I love this sport more. But I got to thinking to myself because I looked at the whole game log for Nico, and he this past season he threw 63.8% completion percent. Only in 5 of the games he played, he threw over that. He had games he was throwing 48%. Also, his biggest games came from, let's just call it what it is, bad. I think the best team he played or that we had a good game was Vanderbilt, which isn't saying a lot. He had a good game against Chattanooga, had a good game against Kent State, had a good game against Kentucky. Actually, I think one of those games he threw for 69%, but he had 2 interceptions. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, Nico, you haven't even lived up to your current contract. And I got to think to myself, in a season where Ohio State went 11-1 in 2023, I would have been out of my mind. And it's not as though Ohio State kind of didn't go through this with him and his dad, but Kyle McCord came to the table. And he was saying that he wants to renegotiate his contract after that 2023 season. I would be beside myself. And truth be told, I'm proud of Ryan Day for allowing him to walk. And I got questions today. They said, well, Garrison, if that was Jeremiah Smith, would you feel the same way? Yeah. And my reason is because in 100 years, this program will still be here. He won't. And it just amazes me that I truly don't understand how people are defending it, and and maybe I'm only 32 years old, but maybe I'm the old timer now. I don't know. I didn't start watching football until I was in second grade, but it's sad to see. But I did have one more question for you, or I had a question for you. When it comes to the ACC, and you look at what's going on around there, I don't believe it's a tough conference, but I do believe it's competitive. Just in terms of once you get past, I guess, Clemson, I do believe Clemson is going to be a really good team. I think there's a chance they'll be a top 4 team this season. I think Cade Klubnik he has a chance to be the best quarterback in the nation this season. I think the same thing with Drew Aller, too. Who do you think is the dark horse team in that conference?
Dark horse team in the ACC. I first thought of SMU when you brought that up. They've got Kevin Jennings back at quarterback. The last time we saw him, obviously, he was a mess against Penn State, but he's a big threat. And Rhett Lashley's doing a heck of a job there. He pretty much brought up Miami West. He brought, there are so many Hurricanes on that roster, and he loses a couple to the NFL draft, including Brashard Smith, who was their 12 or 1,300 yard back. But they bring some people back without looking at schedules and trying to figure out, okay, who's got an easy schedule versus a tough schedule. Darian Mensah leaves Tulane to go quarterback at Duke. I don't know that he's a significant upgrade to Malik Murphy. Manny Diaz did a decent job in his first year at Duke. They won 9 games. I'm going to be intrigued to see if Fran Brown is really good as his first year record at Syracuse, or if that was more Kyle McCord and a couple really good receivers. I liken what Syracuse did last year with McCord throwing the ball 50 times a game to what Sam Hartman did for a few years at Wake, where the team really wasn't that good, but it was him and it was about 3 receivers and they carried the team. That's kind of what happened at Syracuse. So I think they're going to regress. Bill O'Brien might be the best game coach in the conference on Saturday. He or Jeff Brom. So look out for Louisville. I just think the world of
North
Jeff
Carolina
Brom.
love.
Okay, well, we're going, Bill Belichick. Maybe I forget about that guy. It's an intriguing league when you throw out Jeff Brom and Bill O'Brien and now Bill Belichick. Because that roster is not bad. They've recruited in the top 20 to 25 in the country.
They gave him $20 million in NIL to use. I mean,
they're hitting the transfer portal fairly hard. Those are just a handful of teams that I think could break through. And Brent Key's doing a nice job, a decent job at Georgia Tech. They're better. Look at their last 3 games. One was a win against Miami, and one was taking Georgia to 8 overtimes, in which they outplayed Georgia. So they
should have won that game.
Two of the best, top 10 to 15 teams in the country, and they looked really good. And Haynes King's back.
Well, that's all I have for you tonight. Before I go, everyone, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button on this video. If you are looking for sponsorships, make sure to also check out sponsorships at vocfb.com. And to my guy, Jackson, because I see him in there. Oh, roll, Todd, roll. Mark, you have an awesome night.
Thanks, Garrison. Our Buckeyes crew has so much going on at the Ohio State channel, led by Garrison there. I know that I can't keep track of these shows anymore. So I've gotten to the point where I used to all be logged up here, but now I got a spreadsheet with all these shows because we're up to about 40 some shows. So I can't keep track of all of them. And Ohio State, I know we've got a Monday and Thursday night show. And every other week we got a Tuesday show. Then we got my show with the guys on Wednesdays. That's at 11 a.m. Eastern time. All right, let's keep it rolling and honor super chats coming in. We've got Adam, who says here, Mark, Nico is an entitled bum. The best players have the intangibles: values, perseverance, maturity, and ability to overcome adversity. He is none of that. I have more respect for the silly Drew Aller. Okay. All right. Nico is what? 19, maybe 20? So he's going into a redshirt sophomore season. I'm going to give the guy a little bit of a break on this account. We don't know who he's listening to. He's listening to somebody. He didn't come up with this. He is listening to someone. Somebody's giving him, is it bad advice? Well, if things work out for him, he gets more money or gets a better, I don't know that there's too many better situations in college football than being the starting quarterback at Tennessee with Josh Heupel running the offense. I don't know that he can find a much better situation than that. So I'm not going to say he's ultimately going to land in a worse situation, but it's just not the way he should be conducting himself. Life's good if you're Nico Iamaleava. It's life's fine right now. You are making 7 figures and you're the starting quarterback at Tennessee, and your head coach is one of the best offensive minds in the game. And your team went out and did a nice job in the transfer portal at wide receiver. Like, you could be in a worse situation. Why are you causing issues to make another $300,000 a year or another $1 million? That's a lot of money. I've never made $1 million in a year. I know some of you are surprised by that. I've never done that. So that's a lot of money. But man, you're trying to set yourself up to develop, to win, develop toward an NFL future. And this is not a good move to do that. And I have yet to read the article to really understand if there's anything else beyond what we see on the surface. And we got our buddy Kaden says, I'd like to apologize to the fans of the Voice of College Football. Kaden, don't be so hard on yourself. You're fine. You're fine. Tomorrow's another day. It's just forget about, just move ahead. I don't know what you're apologizing for, but Kaden, we appreciate it. Kaden coming back with this one. I've changed my view. Thanks, Mark, again. Kaden, we appreciate you being here. I've always said we all need forgiveness at some point, and most of us many, many times. Jackson, stay tuned for a very special treat from the Voice of College Football. It could be on April 21st or May 1st, but rest assured the special treat is coming soon. May 1st. Okay, today's the 11th. The 21st is like... Jackson, you got me on that one. Jackson knows the schedule better than I do. So what we're doing here is we're doing a late night call-in show. I do appreciate all the people that tell me on a regular basis, Mark, and I see this all the time. I got to say this, since I've been on about 5 shows in the last month, that other than Minnie's fine show, I don't know, I haven't checked out the comments over there. I don't think those people know who I am. But on these other shows, I got to say, I'm a bit appreciative, but also kind of scratch my head that I see all these people make these very complimentary comments. I very much appreciate, but I'm like, who are these people? They know who I am. They usually give me the kind of OG kind of comment. And I'm like, but I don't know who these people are. They're not watching me, but they did at some point. It looks like they did. So I put that together with all these other people telling me, Mark, I found you when you were doing late night call-in shows. You're not doing those. So I said, okay, I'll relent and do 1 per week. So that's because of you. So I appreciate that I received that kind of feedback. And Kaden coming back with this one, apologizing to all the members of the Voice of College Football. Folks, you don't know anything less than I do. So, Kaden, we appreciate the contribution. Call back anytime. We got Tukey G. Looks like I won't be able to call in today after all, but I'm here and listening. Thanks for the evening stream. Go Bucks! Tukey G. He is the guy that determined the time for our first late night call-in show this offseason. So Tukey G said Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern time. So Tukey G named it. I don't know who's going to name the next one, but one of you is going to tell us when to get together next week. Or maybe we take a poll. I don't know. Blue Wolverine, super sticker. Thank you so much for that. So we do appreciate everyone who contributes here at the Voice of College Football. And there's a guy that I listen to who does music reactions, and he states it very eloquently in a way that I've tried to express over the years. If you do not have the financial resources to contribute here at the Voice of College Football, you are valued just as much as anyone who gives any amount of money. It has nothing to do with it. Just please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed. And hit the like button and tell your friends and family about the Voice of College Football. If you are able to contribute financially, we definitely appreciate it. We do, in large part, survive and hopefully thrive here at the Voice of College Football based on your contributions. And also keep in mind that this Amazon link's in the description section of all the videos, including this one, and they don't take a penny away from you. They just give me 5% roughly of what you purchase at Amazon if you use that link. So we do appreciate that. All right. Next up here at the Voice of College Football, we got our old buddy, DeReal MVP.
Hey, Mark, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you so much for your patience.
Yeah, no problem, Mark. So I've got an interesting take I haven't heard from the Nico thing, and it's why is he good enough to be demanding for more money? Like, if this was Jeremiah Smith or, Chase Young or somebody that was way better than everyone else in their position, I would understand it. But, like, Nico? Okay, I mean, he's just a dude. He's just a guy that plays quarterback. I mean, I don't think he's this elite talented quarterback that has to demand for double the amount of money.
Against Ohio State in the playoffs, and now this is not an apt evaluation because he was playing for the team that was not nearly as talented or as skilled and so forth. But he basically showed us what he could do against a team like that. He basically put the ball under his arm and ran with it, and that was the only threat they had the entire night. He was completely incapable of stretching the field at all. He couldn't find anything downfield. And again, a lot of that had to do with maybe the best defense in the country. But yeah, we're looking at a guy who's trying to find his way as a starting quarterback in the SEC. He's decent. He's okay. He's a mid to slightly higher level quarterback. He's a
Riley Leonard.
Sure. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Who came into the sport with more notoriety. So we know who he is.
Yeah, because Tennessee fans are crazy and delusional.
But that has nothing to do with, his productivity on the field. It has to do with us knowing who he is.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sorry, but it's just like, dude, you should know your role in life, and you should know that you should honestly be blessed that Josh Heupel decided to choose you as the guy to bring in. Put him on Clemson. Put him on Texas A&M. Put him on Nebraska, Wisconsin. Put him on a mid team. Put him on Iowa. He ain't going to elevate them. He's just going to do exactly what they've been doing for years.
Yeah, again, I have not delved into the situation. I don't know that the articles that are out there and the information is going to tell us anything more than what we're already talking about, that he's pushing Tennessee to give him more money. And whether that's incentivized by I think I have this opportunity to go elsewhere, and so I can push the envelope, or I want to go elsewhere, and for some odd reason, I don't want to just flat out just hit the transfer portal, because I don't know if I'm going to get more money elsewhere. It's just, yeah, for these guys to be acting like professionals, and I don't even like that type of action out of NFL players.
I
It's
get you, but I think what you were talking about with David Greenshield in terms of forcing them to play, it could happen if they signed a contract. Now,
yes,
you wouldn't be able to cap the endorsements, but if they signed a contract, then they would be legally forced to play every single game.
yes, and that's the one thing out of all this mess that while we're heading in a direction that most people don't like, that it's becoming professionalized. That was the one thing I thought, this is going to be a saving grace of this sport, even though we don't like it heading in this direction, that instead of being able to, we could be 5 minutes away from any player. Well, we're technically a week away from the transfer portal opening, or about 3 days, but any player at any time can jump in the transfer portal. And we used to think it was just, well, basically because they're looking at the depth chart and thinking, I just went through spring practice, I don't like where I am, I'm going to leave. But now it could be any player that's sitting pretty on their particular team, is working the back channels and knows, I can make more money at that school, so I'm leaving. Even though I'm the starting wide receiver at a prominent school, I'm still leaving because they're going to pay me $500,000 more. So there is no stability in this sport. But by, like you saying, and I said from day one of this pending salary situation with the media rights going partially to the players, this could be a good thing. Sign them to a contract. They're signing a scholarship, sign them to a contract, and at least we know that there's some level of stability to the sport, that they've got to, and you know what? They'll have to play in the postseason, whatever crappy bowl game their team gets designated to, they'll have to play in that game too. And we won't be sitting here wondering what teams are going to show up in terms of what personnel or what rosters are going to show up for bowl games.
Yeah, and I think that would greatly improve the postseason product and the health of the sport overall, because we won't be talking about next year while focusing on the postseason play. It's ridiculous and absurd. So contracts are one of the only few things that I think is just going to be a complete upgrade than from where we're at now. Mark, I've got an interesting list for you. These are head coaches that I think are under some real pressure to perform this year. I want you to rank them in terms of most likely to least likely to be fired, or
Yep.
who's under the most pressure and least. Brian Kelly, Lincoln Riley, Luke Fickell, Matt Rule, and Mario Cristobal.
Kelly, Riley, Cristobal, Rule, and Fickle.
That is correct. These are all
Okay.
coaches that have changed within the last same cycle and have all
Yes.
been disappointing.
Yes. Got it. To varying degrees, of course.
Correct.
So the guy that's in the worst spot is Luke Fickell. He's got the worst team. He's playing in arguably the best conference. He's playing a tough schedule. He's got the worst personnel. He's performed the worst out of all of them, even though he's had lower expectations. The guy's a game under 500 after 2 years. He's in the worst position. After him, man, I'm struggling between Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley, because I think they're in similar positions in which what the expectations are, that they're facing extremely difficult schedules. They've underperformed, but not drastically. I'll go Lincoln Riley next, because they're making a concerted effort just here in the last couple months through NIL. They get the number one recruiting class in the country. Now, I don't know how that's going to be viewed, whether that's going to partially save him, because let's say he goes 7-5, that there's going to be a thought that, well, but he's got the number one recruit, or whatever it ends up to be. It's not going to be number one in the country, number 5 recruiting class in the country. So we'll keep him around for one more year because he's got some momentum coming into this season, and maybe we lose some of those guys if we lose Lincoln Riley. I think Cristobal's on the other end of this spectrum. I think he's fine. He just won 10 games this past season. That's, shoot, at Miami, that's winning the Super Bowl. That program's been down for so long. He's in fine shape. He's recruiting out of his mind. They've got great recruiting momentum there. They're coming off a season which they entertained their fans, if nothing else, even though they bombed in the big games and blew it against Syracuse with a playoff opportunity. He's on the other end of that spectrum. Who am I missing out of this list?
Rule was
Rule.
one.
Matt Rule's fine. I understand that he isn't lit it on fire, but he broke through to a bowl game, won the bowl game, had a winning record. Nebraska's been so bad for 8 or 9 years that that's actually a good look. He's tied to this quarterback. I think he's fine there. And again, the Nebraska expectations, even though historically they're extremely high, I don't think that this current group of Nebraska fans, if they go out there and go 8-4, they're going to be giddy about that. The Brian Kelly situation is interesting because he's paid to win championships. Like, his record's not bad. He's going 10-3, 9-4 every year, but that's not what he's paid to do. And they're getting kind of buried in the mid-tier of the SEC. And I think that LSU's crazy enough or bold enough to say, enough's enough. That was your 4th year. You're doing nothing. Let's say they go 9-4. That's not good enough. If you can't get to a 12-team playoff at LSU for 4 years, I know they only had 2 of those years as a 14 play or a 12-team playoff. That's not good enough for what we do here. Bye. So he's kind of a wild card where his record may not look that bad, but enough's enough. He's looking at the school losing a 5th consecutive opener going on the road to Clemson.
Yeah, that should be a heck of a game to start the season off. Let me give you a little pushback on the Miami one. I mean, maybe the administration isn't, but their fans legitimately believe they should be in the playoffs every single year. So, do you not think the expectation versus reality of Miami could sink Cristobal?
I think he's perfectly fine. He's perfectly fine, and the schedule's not going to challenge them enough. If he goes 8-4 this year, some certain Miami fans aren't going to be real pleased with that, but that's going to be just fine for him to continue to recruit and go on to the next season.
And I'm seeing a few names that people want me to throw in here, so I'll add 2 names to this list: Brent Venables and Mike Norvell. Mark, where are they at?
Oh, they're in trouble. So you're going to, with Venables, you're going to one previous cycle before those guys you named, and then obviously Mike Norvell's working on a 6th season. And you talk about a roller coaster career at a school. He has seen losing to Jacksonville State, and this past season, obviously having the biggest free fall in the history of college football. Somebody please show me where a team's gone from 12-0 to 2-10. It doesn't exist. He is not recruiting well in the high school ranks. He is especially not recruiting well in Florida. He's trying to patchwork a team with a transfer portal. So he got it right 1 year. 2 years, he totally whiffed this previous season on everything. And this is one of the reasons why I think in this transfer portal era, the decision that is made about the quarterback position is suddenly, by far, it's always been important, but you've always just recruited the position and tried to stack up, okay, we got a senior this year, our backup's a really good sophomore, he's coming on, then we just got a hotshot freshman. Like, you always had the lineup ready and you could forecast out 3 or 4 years. Now it's, okay, are we good with our room and we're going to stay with the guys we have, or do we need to make a bold? Are we going to be the Gus, or I was going to say Gus Malzahn, Auburn, Hugh Freeze of Auburn, and stay with Peyton Thorne? Dumb. Don't do that. Well, he did it and he suffers another 5-7 season. Or you're going to go out and make a good move, or you're going to go out and make a DJ Uiagalelei move like Mike Norvell made. Like, these quarterback moves, and with the transfer portal being what it is crucial to these coaches' longevity. And I think Mike Norvell probably needs to go 7-5 to show that, okay, it's not coming off the rails, and that was an aberration. And Brent Venables is in a tough spot, tough schedule. He's lost 7 games 2 of the 3 seasons he's been there. If he throws out another 6-6 kind of season, I think that there might be better options out there for Oklahoma. I think he's at the top end of that. He's right under Fickle.
So what I'm hearing from this list, Mark, is we should be or could expect some big time movement this season.
Yes, I think it
especially
goes in
compared to the last
waves.
few.
Yes, when we analyzed the offseason last year, we were in a situation where and it played out this way. There's not going to be much movement because all the guys that are off to bad starts, they just got started, and then other teams just replaced coaches. So we were in a cycle of, okay, there's not going to be a lot of volatility, but I think we're in a cycle where this is make or break for a lot of big time coaches.
Yeah, it's going to add to the storylines of this season. And, as a smaller team out there, Mark, I'm worried about my team and my coach because I expect Kentucky to have a complete disaster of a season. We got Zach Calzada as our quarterback, which means we're completely screwed. Like we're just screwed, Mark. We might lose to Toledo this year.
I couldn't believe that when I saw that. I was like, this is the best Kentucky can do. They went out and got Zach Calzada. Huh.
Yeah. So if we lose Mark Stoops, which we probably will because he should get fired if they go 3-9 or 2-10 or 4-8, I'm worried that all the bigger schools are going to eat the big fish and Kentucky's going to be left with some breadcrumb. Some retread or some brand new coach that nobody's ever heard of, some recruiting analyst for some school somewhere that nobody's heard of. That's why I'm worried about it. Do you think those concerns should be validated based on this conversation?
Oh, the concerns for Kentucky football?
Yes.
We should probably bring on our resident Kentucky football expert here. Leanne's in queue here. But anyway, I haven't taken a deep dive on Kentucky football to know what the personnel looks like, but the quarterback situation in 4-8 and 7-6, the 2 years prior to that, yeah, Mark Stoops said it best himself. He said, we're kind of proud of what we first did, but we've hit a level where this is not good enough. And he states that before they go out and go 4-8, that the 7-6s weren't good enough. So he has set his own firing line.
Yeah, it's going to be a poetic death, I think we can say, Mark.
All right, Darrell, anything else?
No, that's all I've got. Good talking to you and looking forward to the rest of the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man. All right, so we got a situation here where I have stated in the past that we give a preference to actual callers. So Jackson, and I'm sorry, Leanne, we go to the fans here first because we need to hear from them. So we got George on the line. George, what's going on?
I'm willing to defer to Jackson if he wants to go first.
Okay, why are you deferring to Jackson? You're on the line, George.
Okay, have you seen this movie?
Jackson's a host. He works here at the network, so we got
All right,
to put
fine.
him back to the line.
Have you seen this movie called Greater? It's about a player called Brandon Burlsworth. He played for Arkansas.
I know who that is. What did he do that was such a...
He was a walk-on, became like All-American offensive lineman.
Yep.
It's the biggest tearjerker. You can't watch this movie without crying at some point. I don't care how hardened you are.
Did he have some kind of sickness or something?
No, he got hit head on by a semi. He was on his way to sign this multi-million-dollar contract with, I don't know who it was, Indianapolis or somebody.
Oh,
His mother never got a penny. His family was dirt poor. He came from nothing, became an All-American walk-on, and got killed before he signed his contract. And there's some guy in the story that mocks his brother that says, how's your God looking now? You know, explain that one to me. You know, but it's the best movie in the world. It makes Rudy look like nothing, like a nothing movie.
Yeah.
It just everyone should watch it. It's called Greater from 2016.
Okay. No, I'm looking at him right now. I know who you're talking about now. Now that I see him, because he is a
What
very
a
distinctive
story
look.
that is, and that's a true story. But that's the way we relate to football. Like, people cared. He wanted to play for Arkansas. You couldn't have offered him $10 million to go somewhere else. He would have been happy with 50 grand. You know,
Yeah.
it was his life dream since he was a little fat kid. But he lost some weight and got in shape and fulfilled his life dream. It's on TV right now. I almost started crying. I had to turn the sound off. What a movie. What a tearjerker. Good actors, too. Some famous actors in it.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Give us something to think about tonight.
You'll thank me for it later.
Yeah, I totally lost track of this because I know exactly who I'm looking at, and I remember him as a player, and then I vaguely remember hearing about this after he left college football. Wow.
Same here.
Hmm.
I vaguely remember hearing about it in real time, and then I saw the movie, and I'm like, man, oh man, I've seen it like 3 times. It comes on maybe once a year or something. You can find anything on now, though. You don't have to wait till it comes on TV.
Of course. Well, George,
hey, I guarantee you,
I got quite a lineup behind you. So,
I guarantee you, as we are speaking right now, there are agents out there grooming 14-year-old kids for NIL and this kind of stuff. What's going on right now? This is just out of control. Unbelievable. I can't believe what we're discussing almost. Nico wants more money. God. A couple years ago, I said, yeah, we should just pay every player 50 grand. 150 players, that's 7,500,000 a year for the whole team. Maybe that could be modified, 40 grand, 35 grand. I don't know what the number is. But I said, give them all the money now. Give them all 35 grand. Establish some kind of a precedent. And then it could be NIL after that. But they didn't do that. They didn't cut them in. So now we've opened Pandora's box, you know? I don't know. I think it's all set up. I think it was, billion-dollar shit don't happen by accident. This is on purpose. Somebody has a motive. They're going to get what they want. I don't know if it's private equity. There's a reason for this, and it will unfold in the next few years. But I have a feeling it's going to screw the freaking players in the end. They're going to get into these complex 100-page contracts with all kind of loopholes, and the players are going to end up getting screwed, except for the top people, because I know how the legalities work in these kind of things. And then it's going to be legal to have all this crazy shit in a contract, and kids don't get no health care, no lifetime help if they get injured, blah, blah, blah. They're going to get, whatever it is, 50, 75 grand a year, and you're on your own, and you can be cut, and I don't, nothing I can do about it. It's just how it's going to be. And can a small college afford $7,500,000 a year for a team? I don't know. Sounds like a lot of money to me, but I don't know what TV pays small colleges. It's just too complicated. Too many moving parts. Lawyers are going to win. Lawyers are going to get rich off this. Contracts.
Yeah.
They could teach them all right now how to set up a non-statutory private ecclesiastic trust. That's what Rothschild has. I asked the artificial intelligence the other day to show me Rothschild's trust. My kid has the exact same kind of trust. But I wanted to know if the AI would show me Rothschild's trust. And it showed it to me. The exact wording, how to set it up and everything. My kid paid $2,000 for someone to show him. A lawyer can't do it for you. Technically, maybe you can find one, but I've never seen one that would do it because it's anti-system. It means you don't pay taxes in your whole life. That's why they never saw Trump's tax return. There is none to see. Billionaires don't pay taxes. They have one of these private ecclesiastic non-statutory trust. You don't even have to name the beneficiaries, and you can be the grantor and the trustee. Total control, and it's all off the books. The IRS can't talk to you. No one can see your finances. No one can touch your shit. If a bank, nobody can lien your account. It's because nothing's yours. It all belongs to the trust. You have nothing. It's like a pledge of poverty. You have nothing. It all goes to the trust. But the trust decides to buy you an airplane. It's what all the TV preachers do. The trust bought me 4 Learjets. I own nothing. The trust bought that house for me, that $1 trillion mansion and 800 acres. Teach that to the football players if you care about them. It's very
George,
upsetting.
you never disappoint us. I didn't know you were going with this angle. You're bringing some serious intel.
I'm going to change the subject. Is Florida a blue blood?
No.
Okay. I'm glad we're not. You know why? Because there's not one blue blood that has 3 football championships and 3 basketball championships. So if that's the price we have to pay to not be a blue blood, I'll pay it. We're the only university ever to win 3 in football and 3 in basketball.
Well, we don't have
like
arguments, George, about like overall blue bloods in all sports at the same time. They're not linked that way. Like Kentucky's obviously a basketball blue blood, but not a football blue blood, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you may have the best of both worlds. You're right.
Florida has won a national championship for like the last 15, 20 years in a row every year. But it's men's golf, tennis, swimming, baseball, football, basketball. It just goes in this big circle. Track and field, women's swimming, men's swimming. Every year we're knocking down national championships. That's man, oh man, our NIL shit must be off the hook. There's a lot of money flying around at Florida.
Yeah, and your buddy Billy is back, and DJ Lagway. And
DJ Lagway.
It's going to be a fun team to watch.
You know how Spanish people have a shrine? They have shrines a lot of times with the Virgin Mary and candles, and
sure.
You know how you see that in movies? Every Gator fan should have a DJ Lagway shrine in their house somewhere. It's all DJ. It's like he's like Moses, going to lead us out of the desert.
Well, maybe we should back off on that if we're going to be all over Nico and what he has failed to do or not proven yet. I think DJ Lagway might be in that same spot. I'm expecting great things.
DJ's never lube in Florida. He's like Brandon Burlsworth. He's a Gator because he wants to be a Gator. If you follow, he kept getting money in high school. Everybody in Texas offered him, here's $1 million, come to our school. And he stayed at his school. He said, I'll dance with who I came with, or where I came from. And he stayed there and won him a state championship,
Well, somebody
he's just a really good down to earth person.
Somebody put in the chat about DJ Lagway might have some kind of injury, and I saw that on social media as well. That there's about, DJ.
You know what? I'm not worried about it because even if he had to take a year off and have surgery or something, we'll get him next year. We'll deal with it. Use the guys we got. I'm not worried about it. There's always next year if that happens. Can't blame a guy if his shoulder's hurt or if he tore something. Or they say he had it in high school and he played with it last year, so something to do with his throwing arm. We're just gonna have to wait and see. Like I say, I'm not worried. If it ain't this year, we'll win the championship next year. We have a good team all around. We're like it's just you'll see when the season starts. We're so loaded: linebackers, receivers, edge rushers, defensive backs, everything. Running back, just loaded. So I can't wait.
I want to see if your team can get some revenge on Miami. That should be a heck of a game.
Yeah. Oh, Miami beating us. We were playing Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz ain't there no more. Miami, I can't even believe they talked to me about their. How Miami talks. God darn. We beat Miami the time before last year, but they don't remember that. They think they beat us 30 times in a row or something. In the all-time series, they're 2 games ahead of us. We could fix that in a heartbeat. A couple wins, we're tied. So I don't know where all their braggadocio comes from. Maybe it's those 5 national championships. I don't know. But that was so long ago. It's like Nebraska longing for the old days. And I love Nebraska because it's way out there in Nebraska. You know what I mean? They're like in the middle of nowhere, and I just love those teams like Iowa State, Nebraska, Montana. I love them when they do good. South Dakota State, South Dakota.
I
But
don't know if
Miami,
Nebraska fans would appreciate you putting them in the same category with Wyoming and Montana.
No, but they're still not population centers. Miami's in Miami. There's no excuse for them not winning nothing for 20 years. Like they're recruiting to come to Miami. You know how hard it is to get someone to go up there in the blizzards and snowstorms and the town. When you look on a map, there's a big red dot like in the capitals of these states, and you get there, and it's like a town of 20,000 people, and you're like, what the heck? You're expecting like a city and a population center. There's not that many people there. If you've ever driven across country, you'll notice this quickly. Just because there's a big red dot on a map doesn't mean nothing. It's just the city. That's just the main city in the state. So there's 20,000, 50,000 people. That's it. Oh, it's rough, man. Everyone's driving old rusty cars, It's no money. There's not money flying everywhere like it is in Miami.
Well, George, I've got some other callers I better get to here.
Wait. Let me see what else I had.
Okay.
Oh,
what's on your list?
One last thing. It's not too late. Elon Musk or Donald Trump or some of these guys could start a Department of College Football Efficiency and fix this before it gets off the rails. They need to step in and say, look what we found. The athletic directors are actually dragging down $500,000 a year on the side, stealing whatever it takes. Do something, fix it. Or get rid of the NCAA for being corrupt. Make the referees undergo polygraphs. Whatever you got to do.
Well, that might be on their list. Probably far down the list, but they might get to it here. I thought it was some kind of proposal when he spit out those 2 names that they were going to help me out in some kind of way.
That's something. You write them a letter personally, and they can put you in charge of it or second in command or whatever. You could volunteer to help them for 100,000 subscribers. Say, if you can get me 100,000 subscribers, I'll help you for free.
Okay. Usually,
all right.
Good idea.
I have a couple more things on my knockoff list here, but I'm gonna save it for next time.
All right, we'll be here, George.
Love you guys.
Thanks for stopping by, man.
Talk to you later.
George actually makes a list. Did you hear that? He's got a list for us. That you don't want to see me that large, I know. But George actually has a list that he saves for the Voice of College Football. Very nice. Love it. All right. Let's, Jackson, again, you understand we got to put you at the back of the line. Jackson being a host here. So we go to the community here. We got Kaden on the line. Hello, sir.
Good evening, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. What's up?
I'm honestly doing well, Mark. I appreciate you bringing me on. I just want.
Yeah, I think we have a mistaken identity there, is what I'm guessing there. I could be wrong, but I think I locked in on that one pretty quickly. So, one call, one account. It's rather simple, folks. Okay, now we've got Defiant stopping by. Defiant, what's going on?
Nothing much, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about Kent State. I know Kent State's small school, but they recently fired Kenny Burns.
Yes, they did. I just saw that. Yes.
Pardon my language, but how effed up right now is Kent State football? I know they've been historically bad, but right now I feel like this is a new low life for Kent State football. They lost to a school last year that's moving to D3 in 2026 in St. Francis. And I know, again, Kent State's not the greatest, school in the MAC, and their budgets are not the greatest either. But you bring in a guy like Kenny Burns, and you expect him to win, 7 games when you had Sean Lewis, who could have really won a lot of games in his time as head coach.
Well, all I can say is this is magnifying how good Sean Lewis was, at least in that situation. Now, Sean Lewis has shown us nothing as a head coach or not had the opportunity elsewhere, but my goodness, he went above 500 in conference play there. He won a couple bowl games, or at least went to a couple bowl games. And the place was a disaster when he got there. He cleaned it up rather quickly. He left, of course, to take the Colorado offensive coordinator gig. And he leaves and it falls back apart with they're 1-23 the last 2 years. So, man, this makes Sean Lewis look like a genius. But you're right about the Kent State football program. I don't have any such knowledge of my alma mater's incompetency, but they were this incompetent when I was going to school there. It's never stopped. It's the strangest legacy, football legacy, where you can rip off close to 10 historic names that have originated at that football program, but they have the worst record in history, and they are just have always been awful. It's very odd.
And I mean, you can win at Kent State. I don't see, again, you can win there. I forgot the head coach, Hazel, or whatever, the Purdue coach that got fired before Braum. He went 11-1, and he won his second season there. So I mean, you can have these great seasons once in a while. Again, they're a MAC school, so you're not expecting them to be 12-0 or 11-1 every year. But you're in a recruiting hotbed of Ohio. And I know you compete with Miami, Ohio, Akron, Bowling Green, Toledo, some of these schools that have been decent over the last couple of years. But yeah, you can still at least prove, go 4-8, 5-7 every year. At least just turn something as a product on the field.
Yeah, I just question what the incentive is and what the benefit and payoff is at a MAC school between going 1-11 and going 4-8. What's the difference? Nobody goes to these games. They're going to get the same slice of the television contract, whatever that turns out to be, from ESPN. I don't know what the TV contract is, especially once you divide it, 14 ways in the MAC, that there's really that much money coming in from television. I don't know what the incentive is anymore to have at that level to even play football.
I think Kent State will keep trying and trying before they decide to drop football. Again, you're in the G5, so you're in the upper echelons of Division I football.
Yep.
Kent State was an FCS school. I can see maybe dropping it or doing something else to figure out a way to keep it. But I think right now, I think Kent State will keep it. Again, I don't know how much they're getting or how the MAC, divides their revenue, if it's unequal or it's equal sharing or something like that. But I just think it's kind of interesting. Kansas went to a spell. They weren't, they were pretty bad, but they got better. So I don't see why Kent State, somebody could come in and, go 7-6, 6-7, just provide something for the fans and for the university to be supportive behind.
Well, Defiant, excuse my comeback on that one, but what fans are we talking about? I don't know that they have fans.
They probably do. Deep in Kent, Ohio, there's probably one fan. One fan that's like a diehard.
Well, I know they're technically fans somewhere, but I don't know if there's 100 or 400. It's not significant. And I don't know. if Kent State miraculously went 8-4 this year and contended for a conference championship, I don't know how many more people would be at these games. I don't know that there were that many more people there when they were doing halfway decent with Sean Lewis there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was recently in the area for how long did I live there? For about a year and a half. And, I would see the attendance figures and see the actual stadium. And I'm now going to Akron as well in regards to making this comparison. And I remember seeing shots of whatever the name of the Akron Stadium is after they left the Rubber Bowl, I think Infocision Stadium, that they were playing for division championships, and there's nobody in the stadium.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you're playing weeknight games on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, that doesn't help as well. So you just have to look at the games on Saturday, which I don't know how many.
Yeah, and that's
on
being
average.
done so that the conference can make some money on television.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not helping the universities playing Tuesday and Wednesday games when it's like 30 degrees outside and, kids have class that day or whatever.
Very true.
I get why, those games would have, less than like 5,000 or less than 6,000. But I still think, again, if you just bring something to Kent State, just something to show, you're improving. That's all I kind of want for Kent State. I want these small schools to, succeed in some level of what, they're expected. I'm not expecting all these G5s to be good. I'm just expecting them to be decent, for living up to a stature that they can compete with in their conference.
Yeah, so I was wondering what your incentive in all this was.
Yeah, I just want to see Kent State be competitive. Like, I did watch a lot of Kent State football last year in ESPN Plus, and then when they had, like, their weeknight action or whatever, I'm just like, this team's horrible. This team is just completely horrible. And I've seen horrible football over the last couple of years.
And you've actually watched these games.
I have, yeah. Not a lot, but I have.
You should be sitting in my chair right now, Defiant. If you're watching Kent State football games and watching MAC on, I haven't watched a MAC game except for their bowl games. I do try to watch all the bowl games, but not watched any MAC football for years.
I mean, Mark, when you have nothing to do on a Tuesday and Wednesday, and you just want to like torture yourself watching Kent State football, that's something you could do to this upcoming season.
Yeah. I just was curious. So, like you, I just came across this news today. I didn't look at anything. I just saw it right before I came on here about them firing their head coach. I'm just wondering what happened with the timing of this. Why are they firing a coach in April?
I know they had an investigation going on.
Oh, boy.
Last time I checked. I didn't read too much into it, like what type of investigation was going on. I don't know if they was covering up the firing by saying, we investigated him for something or what. But last time I checked, there were some type of investigation going on with him. So he was on leave before this happened.
Okay.
So that's kind of stated. They're kind of in a very interesting situation, to say the least. But when you go 1-23 or 1-25, whatever, the last two seasons, I can kind of see maybe why you want to fire him. But you would think they would fire him or put him on leave earlier if something came up like this.
Yeah, let's see what we've got here. So they named their offensive coordinator the interim, Mark Carney. We'll look for a head coach after the 2025 season. My family and I are saddened by the news today. We are thankful for the relationship. So he's not saying anything, of course, here. So what do we have here? We've got Burns was placed on administrative leave. Okay. Paid last month. The school did not provide details. Of course, they were awful. This is the fifth time they've gone 0-12. At this time, our focus will be to support Recently learned of the meritless termination of his position as head coach at Kent State. Needless to say, Coach Burns has met all the challenges that a head coach must face, including but not limited to reducing off the field problems with his players and securing the highest GPA in school history. So he's got a lawyer working for him. Authorize me as the lead counsel of his litigation team to pursue all remedies available to him under the law and to recapture his reputation. Huh.
Interesting.
Okay. Hutton says his client plans to file a lawsuit against the university.
So I'm just wondering now, was this in his contract when he signed it? Potentially? Like when I sat him down and for the interview, like, hey, this is what we want you, the criteria you have to meet?
Are you talking about off the field criteria?
Well, I'm looking at this paragraph right here that says about the reducing the off the field problems.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, yeah, was there anything like off the field potentially?
Yeah, there's nothing in this article that gives us any clarification as to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Off the field. That's odd.
Yeah,
so obviously something has happened. Either something has happened recently that was the final straw for the university, or they have been mulling this ever since the end of the season and trying to get their legal minds in place to figure out whether they are on the hook for anything.
Yeah, and I think until we probably see what Burton's lawyer is presenting, what their argument is, I think then we'll have some more clarification. Because when I saw this again, I was like, okay, what happened? You know, when head coach gets fired, you want to know kind of like what happened, or you know, what are some of the reasons why university did that. I'm like, there's nothing saying, yeah, we fired Burns for this or that.
Yeah, especially, of course, obviously, it's April.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, you have your spring practice, your spring game, all that coming up. So it's kind of interesting to see the at least. But you know, going away from Kent State a little bit, you know, I'm sure nobody expected me to bring up about Kent State, or so you're bringing up the Kent State situation. But all this NIL money and all this like revenue sharing and everything like that, could we see the conferences kind of stepping up a little bit in terms of how much a university could pay a player or how much a team could pay a player?
The conferences are going to step up with what?
Having like some type of like cap or some type of minimum to, you know.
Why would a conference institute a cap that may not be competitive versus other conferences?
Well, I was just going based off the schools and everything like that. For example, like a Rice in the American, they're not going to pay a guy $7 million and come to their school.
Sure.
So I was just thinking, because again, like in Major League like baseball, for example, I'm using this as another example. Like, you know, you have like the players' agreement and everything like that. The team has to, you know, pay a minimum of X, Y, and Z for their players. So I was kind of thinking maybe this conference could look at that, like, okay, your enrollment, your size, you know, all that could be a factor into how much a school could pay for a player.
Okay, so when we talk about paying players these days, we've got to differentiate this media rights decision that's coming down that's going to allot $20.5 million is the number that's being reported, $20.5 million to the athletic program. So it's not just football, but of course the majority is going to go to football versus NIL.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two different things. So there's going to be that $20 million, probably more in the $18 million range, depending on the school, that's going to be distributed to football to be paid to the football team.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking about capping that, it's already been capped, or it's not necessarily capped. It's a equal distribution going to every school.
Mm-hmm.
Now the NIL, that's completely uncapped, because I don't know how you can legally cap it. How do you legally force people not to give money to players and to programs?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like kind of brought up the minimum. You know, you could pay, you know, a minimum of this amount to a player, depending on like the school enrollment or whatever they use to figure that out.
Well, they are going to get minimums.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was kind of thinking like the conferences can maybe step in a little bit too, depending on what's said and what's in place. Like, okay, the betterment of the schools. This is going to be the minimum for the schools.
Yeah, again, this $20 million is the figure that's going to be allotted to the athletic programs.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's going to have an equal share of media rights. Or I shouldn't say it that way. The media rights obviously go to the schools through the networks, but in terms of this distribution that's going to the players, that's equal.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Mark? I just realized something.
Yes, sir.
I had that all mixed around. Sorry, I'm looking at like other stuff as well. So in my mind, I thought it was the other way around. I am completely. I just remember. Yeah, it's been a long couple of days for me
Oh,
at
you're
school.
fine, Defiant.
Yeah.
We
No,
appreciate
sorry.
you calling.
Yeah, no, yeah. So yeah, I forgot that it was 20 and a half to everybody. Everybody gets an equal share and everything.
Yep, that's what we're anticipating based on this hearing. So, all right, Defiant. Well, we appreciate you calling.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
You have a good night.
You too.
All right. We've had a few people drop off who were a bit, I don't want to call them impatient by any stretch because certainly they've been waiting a long, long time. But we are down to our buddy Jackson showing up to talk some college football with us. Jackson, what's going on?
It's going pretty good. It's been a wild day today. I mean, because like I was talking about like Tennessee. Like, apparently, like when I was like calling in on the Fine Ball show today, like the Vols fans were just going crazy today.
So, what are they saying?
They're like, just leave already. Leave already. Nico. Just leave. It's like, but then they're at some point they're gonna be like, oh, come back. But I'm just like, yeah, okay. We saw this song and dance before. The Greciano 2017, and then with all this stuff like the coaching carousel and who knows with them, but it's just so funny. But Tennessee at the Boys College Football has a tremendous show with Tucker Harlan and Jordan Binkley Monday nights, 7 p.m. Central Time.
That's right. They are going to have a field day with this one.
Oh man, it's like I'm looking forward to see what they got to say. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, here we are just right before the spring game, and Nico's not going to practice with the team.
Well, I mean, that means they're going to see whether they get a new QB in. But if Nico decides to leave Tennessee, that means North Carolina could be looking for him. I mean, that would be a big splash for Bill Belichick in Chapel Hill in style right there.
Is that something you came up with, or did you see that somewhere?
I saw somebody had that somewhere. Somebody was saying Oregon, and they also had like Indiana and USC, but I don't really think USC is looking for a QB anytime soon. I don't think Oregon's wanting to go the transfer portal route. They want to stick with Dante Moore for right now. But something tells me Oregon's happy with where they are. But Colorado, yeah, I did see that, Doc P. Yeah. It would not surprise me. Like whoever gets Nico, like I'm not sure what's happening with Nico. I think like how all this started was like a fuss between Pete Nakos at On 3 and Nico Lamaliva's dad. That's how all that started, apparently.
Well, yeah, I saw the tweet that came out from his dad going after Nakos.
Yeah, that's yikes.
So what did Nakos say or write that got his dad fired up?
That he was saying they want more money.
Oh, okay. Well, that seems to be pretty accurate.
Yeah. It's like LeVar Ball on cocaine. It's like even LeVar Ball's watches is going, even I didn't act that crazy. I mean, like the spring games this Saturday are nuts. Like quarterback controversies, quarterback battles everywhere. We could be seeing one in Tennessee, but we know we got one in Alabama, and we got one with the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I was hoping Leanne was coming back on here because I was thinking we are going to be talking a little bit about recruiting on A-Day, but oh well, she'll be back.
Yeah, well, I think, considering it's 1:00 in the morning and she's got a long day tomorrow, she's out at Houston at the OT7 camp. Yeah, she's got all sorts of stuff going on. So, yeah.
Yeah,
But
she's the busiest woman on the planet at Wildcats Wire, the Rebel Walk, Ole
Yeah.
Miss Live Wednesday afternoons, and on the move with you on Tuesday afternoons at noon Central Time. Like that, she's busy, man.
she is busy.
Oh,
And
yeah, it's
four kids on top of that. So, yeah, she's running all over the place. But she's going to be at the Houston. I think it's the Under Armour is at Houston. I don't want to get them mixed up. She went to the OT7 last weekend. She's going to be in Houston tomorrow for the Under Armour to scout those kids. So, yeah, absolutely. So she brings a lot to the table.
I wonder what's going to be the plan for Kentucky week. Like when it gets to week 2, like it's like, oh man, like there needs to be like a half Ole Miss, half Kentucky hat. Look, we got.
Oh, yes, she'll have to make one up for yes. I didn't realize that those two were going at it. That's right, because all the SEC schedules are obviously the same as they were last year. They just go to Lexington this year. Yeah, you're getting my wheels spinning about these quarterback situations, and I'm going to have to look into Tennessee's quarterback situation because I've heard that Nico's backups might be just as good, at least one of them. So,
well, I saw the Tennessee quarterback situation in case it does get to a point where Nico decides he's going to leave or somebody in his camp tells him to leave. Jake Merklinger, a redshirt freshman, is waiting in the wings to possibly start if that were to happen.
I know that name. Okay.
So it's going to be fun seeing that. And I can't wait to see Hayden Ainsworth, Jaquaz Wilts, Tay Hall, and Brady Hill on the A-Day. They're going to be taking a visit to Tuscaloosa tomorrow. So that's going to be fun. And Xavier Crowell, which he's a top running back for 2026. Got any plans on New Year's Eve? Because I'm going to tell you right now, you might want to see what he's got going on because he's going to make his commitment then.
Yeah. And it's going to be kind of tough for you to keep track of A-Day because that's not on TV, correct?
That's correct, but not a problem. There's always a way. I'll find a way.
Nice.
There you go. I mean, it's like I'm always going to find a way. That's just how it
this
works.
is what we've got going tomorrow, Jackson, in regards to spring football. So look at this. Tonight, we had all these teams playing some spring games on a Friday, but nobody's on TV. We got deprived of seeing Louisville or UCF, Nevada, Army. And then on Saturday, look at this, folks, where normally we would have ACC network, SEC network littered in that right column. Kentucky's got their spring game. LSU, we've got, there you go, Ohio State on BTN, Purdue on BTN Plus. Virginia is going to be on the ACC network. Then you got
Virginia
Alabama.
should be put on Disney Plus. They're that bad.
As you mentioned there, Alabama, App State, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, big day in the SEC. Georgia Tech's going to be on the ACC Network Plus. Pitt has its spring game tomorrow. Notre Dame's going to be on Peacock. Oklahoma on the SEC Network Plus. Tennessee, no TV.
Nice. Notre Dame's on Peacock. I'll probably watch a little bit of Gunsmoke before that.
Vandy, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Miami. Yeah, Cal, North Carolina, Bill Belichick, A lot of spring football we're going to miss tomorrow. Crazy.
Oh, there's
Crazy.
somebody
Nobody playing on TV.
Not a problem. Somebody's gonna live stream it on YouTube. There's always somebody.
I don't know if they're going to be live streaming.
Oh, they'll be live streaming from where they're at the event. That's what I think's gonna happen. Just takes a lot of digging. Just find the tag of the team. There we go. We got it in search results.
Well, somebody's going to have to be at the game with their phone.
There's always plenty of people there.
Okay. All right.
There we go. But
All right.
Let's get the boys college football to 100,000 subs.
Jackson, speaking my language.
Oh man, like I was thinking about the other day where you were talking about normal callers. I think Paul saw your thing today and he was like, "Oh crap, he's got a point." I want to go home after these balls callers were just like terrorizing him.
Yeah, I had if nobody saw, if some people missed my clip, I just, had a bit of a meltdown for a second because I was inundated with Chris Foote and Kaden calls. That's all I got for a couple days. A lot more callers on these late night shows. We had them stacked up. I couldn't get to everyone. So I apologize. Anyone who called that dropped off, of course, we'll be here next week and we're going to announce. Jackson, do you have any good ideas on how we should select next week's call-in show, late night call-in show?
Friday night's pretty good. So
well, no, I'm not going to call it. I want somebody to call it. Maybe so. Whoever jumps at the chance first in the chat. That's what we're going to do this time. We went with Tukey G for this week's show. So whoever gives us a day and a time for next week, I'll go with that.
Oh man, where'd the real go? Oh, Manny Hunt got one for the win.
Oh, Wednesday night win. Give me a time.
Oh, there's Lisa Sims saying late night again.
Okay, give me a time. Wednesday's going to be a little bit difficult. So what we got going, Jackson, is I'm going to be taking on the USC show with Matt Zemek late on Wednesday, at least for a few weeks.
And there's one with and there's I believe you got On the Move going on for the next few weeks.
Yes, we got On the Move with Leanne on Wednesday nights as well. We'll figure it out. Thank you for playing along. I guess I should have cleared the schedule before I asked that. I was forgetting that I've got obligations on Wednesday night.
No problem. It's always a good way to start off Wednesday morning with you and Tony Gurman at Buckeye Huddle and Steve Hellwagon at Buttnuts247, who writes tremendous articles on there.
Minnie says late Tuesday. Okay. Maybe that would be the one.
Lee Sims got 11 p.m. for you.
All right. 11 on Wednesday? Yikes. That would mean Miami at 7, On the Move at 8, USC at 10, and then I'd come on here at 11.
Not a problem. I guess I'd probably have to look back on the clip. There we go. Should be like, write it down. Boom. I did my best, Minnie. I did my best. A Schwab's asking if we're all getting college football 26. Like, bro, I am not losing bank over a PS5. I mean, PS5's awesome and all, but I'll just go play it at my buddy Austin's house.
I believe we have hit the end of the line here, Jackson. You have signed us off tonight.
There we go. Tell your friends, your family, and the cashiers at Publix about the magic that Mark has for you on the Voice of College Football, and especially on Easter Sunday, where the Easter Beagle and the Easter Bunny are lining up copies of Disputed National Champions, the historical reset of the 90s, written by Mark Rogers himself.
The link's down in the description section, everyone.
It's the perfect gift for 420.
Jackson, you are the one and only. Thanks for stopping by, hanging out with us.
Anytime, man. Anytime. I'll see y'all later. Y'all have a good night.
Thanks, Jackson. Enjoy that spring game.
I plan to.
All right. Remind everyone here that we've got the college football show. So Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. And the only day that we won't hit you up on a 4 p.m. Eastern time will be the time that we do the late night show. So, for example, we did not do a show this afternoon because I'm not going to double up until maybe we hit the season. All right, everyone. Great show because of you. Thank you so much, everyone, for the contributions. Thanks for being here. I do not know how many people we had necessarily on YouTube. We hit about 300 total between Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So thanks for showing up. We love to do this. It's great to talk college football with all of you. Please like and subscribe on your way out. And we will see everyone soon. The next time you're going to see me, I don't think I'm going to show up for any spring football tomorrow. And yes, Tukey G, thank you so much for setting our first time of our first show in the off-season late night. So you will probably see me next on, man, I'm losing it, Monday. What's going on Monday? We'll do our show on Monday. So you're going to see me at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Monday right here at the Voice of College Football. You guys have an amazing weekend. And like me, try to somehow keep up with the spring football games on Saturday, even though we've got no TV except Ohio State and Virginia. Kind of an odd combo. We'll see you on Monday.